Good morning, friends. It's cold this morning. I have a little smoochy Sage here. She is so sweet. For those of you guys who have been following for a while, you've seen a lot of these little barn cats in our videos. This is Sage. She is so friendly. She loves to be held and carried around the farm. You can see her little face right now. Look at that little face. Look at that little face. She's so happy. Her little paws are on my baby bump. Anyways, I thought today would be a good day to tell you guys the events of the past week, which involved a runaway sage or a missing sage, a cat in a tree in the dark, and a crazy ride home.
I've been running most of my life, blowing smoke everywhere around. I've been searching, but I can't seem to find someone that can hold me through the night. I'll count to 10, then open up my eyes. If you're gone, I'll take it as a sign. But if you stay, then baby hold me tight and send me off with the words of a lullaby.
So I want to tell you guys that story, and I also need to work on the garden. Well, not the regular garden, but the landscaping behind our back door is insane. So we need to get weeding, and we're actually going to be putting a weed barrier down over this big patio and a and a patio rug. For now, we just need to get rid of the weeds. So that's what we're gonna do this morning. My little sidekick. You happy?
Jump into the car on a Friday night. I wanna drive with you. Looking for a bar in the nearest town. I've never seen a sky so blue. We don't ever play it and the night is young. It doesn't matter what we do. There ain't nobody like.
So we just moved the furniture. It's behind me and it's all bright. And now we gotta get to weeding. Let me just show you guys how overgrown this stuff is. Because this is real life, and when you have a farm and jobs and a baby on the way and a million other things, your lawn's not perfect, your weeds aren't weeded, and things don't always look as pretty as they do elsewhere. So let me just show you guys the weed city over here. So one cool weed that's come up over here is we have some wild strawberries. Let me show you guys those. See these little guys? They're actually gonna have little baby strawberries on them at some point. It's got them all in here. So I'm gonna let those guys go because that will be kind of fun to have some wild strawberries. Over here, we have some gorgeous hostas and just crazy weeds. Like, just crazy weeds. So a tree growing, another tree growing. This is a David Austin rose actually. So it looks like it's about to get its first blossom on it right there. So this, I need to get weeded. And I also want to fertilize it because it's looking a little pale. Mullein galore, more mullein. A backstep that needs to be replaced because it's falling apart. A pumpkin that we left out and it's clearly rotted. And oh, behind all the weeds there's a peony bush, which I'm gonna clip some of those flowers and put them in a vase after this. That's what happens when you leave a pumpkin out to rot. You have to shovel it up.
Pumpkin soup.
Pumpkin soup for the chickens. Let's go see what the chickens have to think of our pumpkin souffle surprise.
That's what I mean.
They just don't care.
Like they care, but it's very uninspiring. Hey, Smo.
Hi, Smoopy. Hi, Smoopy.
And I'm so lucky to be yours. And you're taking me high. Ain't nobody like you. I'm not coming down. Ain't nobody like you. I could go 1,000 miles as long as I'm with you. Yeah, you're taking me high. Ain't nobody.
Okay, so I just spent like, what, 20 minutes pulling some weeds, and I need to take a break. Feeling exhausted. So I figured now is the good time to tell you guys the events of the past week. So we have the barn cats, Basil and Sage. And for the most part, they stick around here and they hang out with us, and they hang out in the barn, and they patrol the garden. But Sage has an adventure streak. Sometimes we'll go off on 2-day adventures, which occasionally turn into 3 days, and very, very, very rarely turn into more than that. But over the past year, she's done 2 big adventures that have left us really worried. The first one was in November, and she just was gone for like 4 or 5 days, and then one day just strolled right back home like no big deal. And we have no idea where she went and where her adventures took her. And at that point, I started looking into like a GPS collar and thinking about how we could track her if it happened again. But unfortunately, all the GPS collars available on the market are pretty unreliable and can cause you more trouble than they're worth. So that didn't seem like a good option, but we were lucky in that she stuck around for a while and didn't go on any big adventures. Ever since that instance in November where we were really, really, really worried and she ended up fine, we've kind of been less stressed about it and more relaxed in thinking that she'll just come home, she'll stroll home. But we always get worried. We just kind of every day are like waiting for her to come back. So last week she took another adventure, and we didn't see her all weekend. And we didn't see her Monday, we didn't see her Tuesday, we didn't see her Wednesday. And we started to get worried. I made a post that morning on Instagram in my stories and said, you know, our cat's missing, like prayers for her safe return would be great. So Wednesday we were out working in the garden, and it was probably like 8 o'clock. It was getting to be like dusk where the sun was setting. It was Chris got a text from one of the neighbors that said that they had seen a cat kind of around their property, and so we were able to get a hold of our neighbor, and she said the cat was either like a gray tabby or maybe an orange tabby or maybe a calico. And we were kind of like, I don't know about that, because Sage is she's a Torby, so she's basically like a brown tabby, but she has like other colors in her coat. Like she's got some orange, she's got some gray, but she's mostly like looks like a little bobcat or like a little lynx. So anyways, we just weren't sure. We were like, okay, well maybe it's not like they said it was a black cat. So we sent the neighbor a picture of her. She said, well, I think that's her, but she looked really skinny. Oh, Sagey, come here. Come on, Smoochy. Okay, you got Smoochy. So anywho, and the neighbor's house that we were going to was probably like a little over a half mile down the road. So we decided to drive over, which was a good plan. So we drove over and drove up the driveway, and it's getting dark. We're walking around this neighbor's property just like calling her name, and it's super windy, so it's really hard to hear anything. And so I was worried like she wouldn't hear us or we wouldn't hear her. You're so cute. You're just so cute.
Oh goodness.
I'm gonna have to lean into you a little bit. Well, that's better.
It's not,
It's not comfortable
it's a lot
for
of
you.
weight for me to hold up.
Okay, I'll casually lean into you. We talked to the neighbor real briefly, and she says that the cat was by the deck, but as soon as she opened the door, the cat ran off, so she just assumed it was a stray. Now this thing is not stray-like with us. Oh, we got Basil!
Come on, Basil.
Come here. This is Basil. She's the sister. We got 2 cats. They're so friendly. She was like saying basically this cat was acting really skittish. And we've never seen Sage off our property, so we have no idea how she would behave. But it was just kind of like we were searching and we weren't even sure if we were searching for the right cat. We're calling her name, it's getting dark. It's getting dark to the point where we're gonna need a flashlight soon. And we're walking around the property. They have, you know, we live in a rural area, so there's like a lot of places for her to go. They had like 2 barns on their property, they had tons of trees, so we're calling her name and nothing, like feeling discouraged, feeling like this is not going to result in anything. It's really dark. We're not even gonna be able to see her. How in the world is this going to work? And then we heard her meow like once or twice in the distance.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, what? And she's very, very talkative. So she talks back to you. If you talk to her, she talks to you.
And very recognizable. We know her
yes,
meow
her
anywhere.
meow is very like high pitched and soft, and I have no idea where she is. And she's meowing to us a little bit more, and then she's getting louder. And we quickly realize she's in a tree because that's where the meows were coming from, up high instead of down low. So we're continuing to walk and look for her, and then Chris sees her with his flashlight in one of their trees, and she's looking down at him like from pretty high up, you know, like halfway up the tree. She was clearly hanging out in the tree, like going to sleep there for the night, scared, terrified, in a tree kind of cat thing. I actually got a little clip, which I'll put in a video here, of us finding her in the tree. And she was really, really scared and very jumpy and like flighty, but wanted to be by you at the same time, which was difficult because it's getting dark and we need to get home and we have to get her in the car. And so we take her down the tree, and then she's following us a little bit. She's like so happy to see us, you know, she's kneading and meowing and purring and very content, but also terrified. And every time we'd pick her up and walk, you know, like 10 feet, she'd freak out, fly out of our arms, and run 100 feet the other direction.
Scratching us up all the time.
Yeah, he's got some battle
I've got a lot
wounds.
of scratches on my arm.
It took about 30 minutes or so of failed attempts and coaxing and different methods, and then we ultimately realized the only way we were getting her in the car is if he grabbed her really tight, despite like kind of like almost like,
Despite her struggles to get away,
yeah, like
against her
almost
will, for sure.
yeah, against her will, like not the way you want to hold a cat.
Yeah.
But we had to get her in the car to get her home, and then he like jumped in the car, and I shut the door behind him. And it was only like a half mile, so it wasn't a long drive. And then it was like, well, how are we gonna get her in the garage? Because she's still terrified. She's still very, very like traumatized by the whole experience. We were able to like sneak a cat carrier in the car and get her in the cat carrier, and then put her in the garage. And within like 15 minutes of being in the garage, she was pretty much back to her normal self. It's really desperate for attention, and we gave her some food and water, and she's pretty much back to normal. And she made it quite a ways down the road. We think what happened was, in the time that she had gone, like that she had left the farm and we hadn't seen her for maybe a day, they had cut a bunch of the hay fields, and where we found her was on the other side of the hay fields. And so we think that she probably was enjoying like walking through the tall grass and stuff like that, and that's why she made it so far. And then they cut all the fields, which probably terrified her because it's a lot of heavy equipment, really dangerous equipment. And she probably ran off somewhere in the woods, ended up at this neighbor's house, and didn't want to go back because all the fields were cut. So she'd have to be completely exposed to walk through the fields, and there was really no other way to get back to our property. Anywho, that's the story of our cat running away and the successful adventure of her return. And I'm sure this won't be the last time I share a story like this.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, no. It's just so hard because when they're gone, you just want to like, you know, keep them inside, not let them ever go away again. Look at the squirrel.
Oh, interesting. Never a squirrel.
There's never squirrels over there. They are so happy out here, and they're clearly living their best lives outside, but it's also like heart-wrenching when they run off and you just want them to never be able to do it again. Okay, I'm gonna go inside and edit this video. Before I do that, let me cut some, I'm gonna cut some pretty flowers to bring inside.
With your finger, you're doing the thing that you talk about, not liking.
No, that's this. Gonna cut some flowers.
Put that away. Put that away.
Okay, can you grab me the cutter things? The pruners, the pruners. So I've got a couple roses probably, and some peonies. Let me put a glove on. I think I'm gonna go with
Looking back at the good times before it all went down. Climbed right up on the hillside. A different view of my life.
Okay, I'll bring these guys inside and we're good to go.
You said goodbye.